I've just been listening to the new, well, the most recent Cass single.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
love is the call.
it's a tune.
Yeah, it is a tune. It's a tune. Wait till you hear the rest of the album.
Well, I was,
Seriously.
I was going to jump straight in there because I was
Yeah.
doing a bit of reading today. I was having a bit of a read of things I would like to ask you about, and there was an interview you did a couple of years ago where the pull quote was, "You would like to make one more great album," and I sort of presumed that even though you maybe weren't talking about this then, you were talking about the next Cass record.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I may well have been talking about this then because I've kind of been, I mean, this has been itching me. This is an itch that's needed scratching. Um, it's kind of, I've touched upon it. I've, thought about this sort of thing, but fully being focused. I mean, knowing truly that a piece of work is forming as opposed to just having a feeling that and when you're recording an album or you're putting a bunch of songs together, you always have good intentions. And I would say that all our albums, for instance, Kicking Up the Dust is a bunch of really good songs. It's got a lot of good songs, but there's probably a country song on it, probably a pop song on it, probably like an indie song on it, probably a Floydy song on it. It was a gathering of ripe ideas, but really I didn't have any vision for it. It was just that I was in a room with the band. The band had split up. We got back together again. What more to unite and unify the band than to have an album together? That actually, Kicking Up the Dust actually started as a bunch of old demos I'd found. Then it moved on, transgressed to like an EP maybe, and then I thought, well, let's do an album. And I was kind of writing that off the ad hoc. A lot of those songs, or some of the ideas, a lot of the ideas were made up in the studio as we were recording, which was a new process. But this one was very different. Love is the Call. I had a defined vision of what it was going to be like, what it had to be like, and the process of getting there had been tickling and itching me for a long time, really. And it finished with Alan McGee talking about like the last album, going, Alan, we just need a stroke of luck, or we just need a break. Nah. And he said, what you need, John,
Pardon me.
is go away and write a great album. I know you can do it. He said, just go. And then we don't need a favor off anyone. We don't need a break, a lucky break. You make a great album and you've made a great record. That's all you can do. And that will speak volumes more than kind of, fingers crossed. I wonder if people will like it. Well, I'm very detached from this record now because I know personally that the band have made more, the best record we've made in 25 years, easily. And if you speak to youth or Alan McGee, they'll say it's the best record we've made. It's got an energy. The idea was to do. Once I started turning the ideas, what is it about a debut album that's got like all that amazing energy? So what I thought was, how would I write a debut album now, but with the experience and wisdom of being on the road for 30 years. I'm not wet behind the ears. It's not as innocent, it's worldly wise.
Yeah.
But that energy that debuts tend to have, I wanted to capture it, I traveled, I journeyed off that sort of course because it's all encompassing when you write something like that. So I wanted to capture the energy. If I was going to write a record, as a debut record now, what would be the things that I wanted to sound like? Well, it would be between the parameters of like Revolver and Hunky Dory. If I was a young kid, that's what I'd be at. Now I'm not a young kid. I'm a
Yeah.
well seasoned musician and all that.
Yeah.
But those truths still apply. And luckily for me, I had a place to go and when I left the La's and when I started Cast, all change, and the end of the La's, there was a space there that I hadn't gone back to, because, you know, the analogy I've said to a few people recently is, look, you know, when you start a new relationship, it's not good to kind of, you know, keep talking at the dinner table about your ex. It's not not inducive of a good relationship, forthcoming relationship. So I kind of left my experience, you know, of being the bass player in the La's. I'd forgot that I was the bass player in the La's, and maybe a lot of people have as well. And I became the rhythm guitarist, singer-songwriter. So in a Shakespearean thing, I've just sort of realized that those experiences are all part of the one for me. They're not two separate things. And so it's not a parody of the La's, and it's not a parody of All Change, but it's me leaning my shoulder into playing the bass like that. And the beats of the song, because I'm playing the rhythm tune, a lot of the songs are up and keen. Then Keith has to play, he has to play rock and roll, punk sort of rhythms. And then all of a sudden, that's we're defining. There's no room for maneuver. There's no like, well, what do you think about this? No. So I'm playing the bass with Keith next to me, looking at me. He has to start playing boom, because I'm going boom, and before you know it, the thing starts to take shape. Skin starts to, with the help of youth, we start nailing where the guitars have got to go. Not like, you know, does this work? Lots of things work. Lots of things are in the key of whatever song you're playing, but not everything is great, and not everything is exciting, and not everything makes you want to whoop. You know what I mean? And this record, in part, is blistering with energy. It's rock and roll. It's a psychedelic pop album with a couple of amazing singles on it. Love Is the Call is a song that I wouldn't have chose. It's amazing because what it's done, as I said, it's given me the liberty to detach myself, because I know I've made the best album I could have made at this point in time. I had other songs, you know, that I didn't put on the record, which in the past I would have, because I realized, you know, this song is amazing, but it's a bit like, maybe it's a folk Marley track or something like that, and it's just not going to fit on this sort of keen, jumping, sort of psychedelic band, sort of between the framework. Like,
I'm gonna interject, because you're on a hell of a monologue there. There's a few things that spring to mind from that. So let me try and break some of it apart. You're gonna have to forgive me if I am a bit, if I've got a bit of a cough. By the way, I'm trying to write an article at the moment, and whenever I write an article, I just smoke like a chimney, and I've just got you know, a bit of a death rattle going on.
Okay.
So what I was gonna say is, I guess I was a bit of a Lars obsessive when I was a kid. I wasn't like I wasn't really old enough to sort of be around for the Lars, but I very quickly, once I got into music, realised that it was like the album was kind of like a sacred text in a way. You know, I knew of its reverence, and then when I heard it, I was like, these songs are amazing. And I guess I always slightly sort of felt sorry for you a little bit when Cast started, because I was like, this guy is writing really good songs. Like, I think All Right is like one of the best pop singles of the 90s. But I was always like, how do you kind of wriggle free from the gravitas of that first of that Lars record? Like, how do you? There's so much mythology to it that you want, obviously as a kid, very young at that point, wanting to be a professional musician, wanting to be a songwriter, and being very good at it. Like, how do you wriggle free from that? And consequently, when I've followed your career from that point on, whether it's Cast or whether it's your solo records and then Cast again, I've always been like, well, he's prolific in the way that like Lee Mathers wasn't prolific, but at the same time, it's almost like I've read it as like you trying to almost make peace, like you trying to work out who you are over quite an extended period of time as a musician, not so much a person. Do you think that's fair to say?
I think all songwriters are on a journey of sort of, you know, finding out who they are or whatever. I mean, you know, all songs and that. That's just the last point. Of course, it's a journey because, I mean, the initial songs of All Change. You know, I could run through if you know, Four Walls, Sandstorm the verse, Fine Time the verse. All Right was already a song.
Yeah.
Um,
The last played all right, yeah?
yeah, they did. Yeah, Two of a Kind. Maybe a verse to walk away. I don't know. I mean, off the top of my head, I'm just doing that. I mean, they were initially. I was in the Lars. They were going to be, you know, Lars tracks, I guess. The best of my stuff. You know, there was no intention to leave. You know, when I was initially doing all that, it's just the circumstances dictate your environments, I guess, sometimes, and before you know it, something's changed. You know, the kind of, and it changed for everyone. It wasn't you know, it was like the wonder and intensity and energy, you know, for myself and for Lee, you know, looking back with an open mind and a free sort of way of thinking. You know, it's heavy going when things start to not be to sound like what you want them to do, when things that should be joyous become a burden. And you know, and I think Lee was carrying that upon himself as much as I was, you know, at the end of my time in the Laws. Yes, I'll have to agree, you know, when Cass first started, one, I didn't want to talk about it because, as I said, I made a little sort of analogy earlier about your ex and your present partner. Also, I was like, I knew that I had to kind of really just push on with, you know, and face the storm ahead. I had some songs. Who's going to sing them if I'm not going to sing them?
Yeah.
You know, I've stepped out of what is, you know, probably, you know, the best British band in a generation, coming out of, you know, a friendship stroke partnership stroke relationship, whatever way you want to do it, with who is arguably, you know, the most gifted songwriter of a generation too. And for that, instead of it being a burden, I look at it as a blessing. See, but I totally understand what you're saying, that like a lot of people, you know, they wanted the Lars to continue. They wanted the Lars or something. And I did feel in the initial stages that there was, you know, oh, you know, it's not meant to be you, John. You know, get back in the band or whatever. I mean,
yeah, I'm not sure I totally saw it as. I don't know whether I said almost sort of cursed. I'm not sure that's quite what I meant. Really, more kind of.
Well, the point I was going to say, so very quickly, and I'll come back, is that, you know, the pity card. I don't go for that, but that's just on me because, you know, this is our own journey. Everything that I look at, all the hardships, all the battles, all the celebrations, all the euphoria, you know, the songs have led me to where I am now, and I'm in the best place that I've been for decades musically, no doubt about it. I look at the Lars with just wonder and deep appreciation, deep affection. You know, I have got no sort. I think, you know, in the past, if you'd asked me this 50, 20 years ago, 20 whatever, I'd have been a little bit, you know, you know, been a few little physical ticks and all that. But I've made my peace with it, in the sense that Lee, you know, I mean, how can a guy who writes such beautiful music not have a beautiful soul? I mean, I'm very, very, very relaxed about it all. I do get what you said. I think there was, like, you know, things consciously, subconsciously that I had to face up to and come out of, because, as I said, the Lars were critically acclaimed. The Lars were also this mythical thing now. You know, it's like, you know, the myth. I was there. I was there through it all, pretty much so anyway. And so I know firsthand what it's like to sit in a room with Lee playing and me playing and the vibrations. And I sometimes come to the conclusion that people talk about the album and this, that, and the other. And I just don't think it was that now. I think, like, if you were lucky enough to ever be in a room, a front room, or in the vicinity of the La's playing, even acoustically, firsthand would be the one. But even some of the shows as well, if you were in that space, then that's where the La's exists, and that's where the La existed. And I don't think it's about records or a career or could have been this and could have been that. Although I do believe all those things, in a parallel universe may be happening, but I've made my peace with it because it was such magical moments, such inspirational moments. And I had such an inspirational time in my life. Plus it was just fucking great music. And
yeah, let me try and sort of splice two questions together here. So one thing that I've always really admired about you, you've said, I read an interview with you when you said that, because I really like your solo records, and there's a line in an interview where you basically say you were kind of playing the songs, you were kind of still writing songs like you would have written for Cast if you still believed in it.
Yeah,
and I found that a fairly, simultaneously quite heartbreaking, but also sort of inspiring in a way, because it sort of ties into that line that I said before. I know I'm really kind of nitpicking interviews here, but it tied into what you said about how you really want to make one more great record. And that almost kind of feels a little bit like, well, you like the records that Cast have done since the Reformation, but you don't really see them as, in many ways, kind of quite put together how you would have liked. And that makes me think about the La's a bit, right? So the thing I always think about the La's is there's so much mythology about it, and I really would quite like to ask you if you think the mythology is slightly exaggerated, or if you thought that was a problem in itself, like that created more pressure, etc., etc. But the other thing I think, and I might be projecting onto Lee a little bit here, so I have OCD. I've diagnosed OCD. I have a real problem with perfectionism. It can cripple me. Like, things need to be as I want them to be. So when I was younger, I used to kind of read the Lee Mathers story, and I'd be like, there's this, almost like there's eccentricity there. He needs the right dust on the mixing desk, etc. But as I've got older, I've actually slightly kind of related to that, because that's a little bit how my brain works as well. And I wonder if you think maybe there was something like that going on, if it wasn't just eccentricity, or if it was more of a sort of neurological brain thing going on.
Well, it's not for me to diagnose people, but what I will say is that you cut out halfway through, or you froze for a bit. But look, we use analogies. The dust analogy. I mean, Lee and myself in that era, everything was trying to describe something. How it. That's where a lot of these things came from. Wanted to sound like a World War Panzer tank, the bass. We want the to sound like this. The dust on the. What that is giving you pictures that are describing the angelic arcs, all this stuff, this mystical music, which you got to remember. It was like there was no pressure. I mean, I know I never felt any pressure those days, nor did Lee, I don't think, because we were in the moments, and when it was okay, it was all right. And the thing about, look, I mean, it's so today everybody's got a label, haven't they? And I'm not disputing the fact that that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, being obsessive about something is if you look back through history, people had, sheds they went to in the back of the garden. People were collecting train tickets or doing little this. A scientist or a physicist or a philosopher or a writer goes to bed thinking, and they keep that thought in their head. Well, then we're all got some sort of label that you mentioned or whatever, because I go, if I've got an idea, it doesn't leave me ever. I tick it over. I tick it over when I'm talking to people. And Lee was the same. But Lee was, when Lee did get, it was, when he caught a wave, then he'd surf it. And it was, an all-encompassing thing. And I was fully on the, on the shoreline, looking at them waves with them. It was, I'm not going to go into telling people what, look at the fucking world. If you want to, who's mad and who's not mad, who's got, who's the psychopaths, who's making the decisions. Yeah. A lot of things are very simple, made very complicated by a world that chooses to see, to not see reason or double Orwellian talk, speech, bullshit. You just put the news on. You listen to the people who are meant to be. You know what I mean. So if you want to diagnose people with conditions, no. What I'm saying is, I'm not going to get into saying, the album, didn't happen, or the laws with this. We're all eccentric. We're all obsessive about things we love. Isn't that Shakespearean?
Yeah. Listen, I go to an OCD support group, and when I'm in it, and I listen to other people who are talking about the problems that they have, because the thing with OCD is it's all about the D, it's about the disorder. So like you can be obsessive, you can be compulsive, but if it's something that makes it hard to leave the house,
you can also be talentless, and you can be talented. Talking,
yeah.
I'm saying, regardless of whatever,
I guess I'm just
something to express, is what I'm saying. So,
I guess I'm just saying that when I'm in that room and there's all these people who are really struggling, and I always just think, this is ridiculous. We're all in this room really struggling, obsessing about
I never seen Lee struggle with a guitar in my life.
No, like, we'd be in the room and we'd be like, okay, we're the people in the room and we're like, quote unquote, mental. But like, have you seen the people who are running the country? Have you seen the people who are running the army? Have you seen the people who, know what I mean? Like, it's like, we're the mental ones. No, there's mental people running the world.
It's all relative, though, isn't it? So
when did you
read Alice in Wonderland, haven't you?
I have read Alice in
Wonderland. You know what I mean? Like the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. You tell me, we're all mad.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think what I'm trying to say is some of us just sort of admit to it. Some of us, I think the ones you've got to worry about are the ones that either don't think they are or they haven't. I don't know. They almost lean into
it. I'm admitting nothing.
When did you? Was there a moment that you accepted that there wouldn't be another Lars record?
Yeah, when I, you know what? Accepted it means that whether something's still going to happen or something doesn't happen is neither here nor there. What I accepted was that there is a moment where I am. And within that moment that exists very now in the present is where I'm going to have to start living my life. And if I'm going to start looking for external forces to give me what I want, then I'm going to be waiting around a long time. So I better through my own actions manifest my own sort of environment. So that was something that I understood. I've understood for a long time. Accepting, I just moved, I just continued to roll. The wheel is still in spin. I haven't stopped at a T-junction and said, and got out the car and said, the journey's over. It's continuing as I speak to you right now, right this very second. The ball is in play.
I've interviewed a load of Scousers recently. I did Ian Brody the other day. I did Will Sargent, and then Paul Simpson in a couple of days.
Right.
Why, not an accusatory way. What is it about musicians from Liverpool that makes them quite cosmic?
Because we're cosmic, there's no doubt about it. That's a cosmic question, you know. Is it you know is it the sea? Is it the tides, tidal motion? I mean, look, being cosmic is just recognizing that there's more. There's a bigger thing at hand, a bigger hand. You know, there's a bigger play going on. I'm a fragment of the whole, and I'm trying to express part of the whole. My story isn't the only story, but it may add to the story to be seen as a whole. And I think that's what artists in general, I guess. I mean, I'm more learned, shall we say, or could I say, in as a songwriter. But all art, all being, it is relative to what we're trying to say. It's an expression of not humanity, but the nature within and the nature without. Trying to relate that feeling that is very difficult to put into words or to describe, and you know, knowing that there's more to everything than what you can make sense of, especially in a society that markets consumerism, tells you how to act, you know, what's successful and what's not successful, how to, you know, men must be men, women must be women, you know, and all these things that are thrown upon us, you know, guilt, insecurities, you name it. I mean, you know, I'm not skilled in all these self-help books and all, but I'm just saying, you know, we grow up with that from day one.
Yeah.
People, and I walk past people's houses. I have, you know, catch through the window the big TV on the screen and people watching, and I just think how absurd that, you know. I mean, I'm looking at a screen now,
Yeah.
but you know, when there's a real world going on out there, there's a real you going on in here. People aren't encouraged to express themselves. I don't know how cosmic we're going.
No. The thing is,
musically, yes, there is a thread. There is a thread that runs through Liverpool. I'd like to think a golden thread that is connected to the cosmos. You know, I mean, maybe it's like, you know, I went to John Lennon's school. How cosmic do you want to be?
Yeah.
How cosmic does it get? Like, you know what I mean? So
yeah. No. I mean, I would imagine the Beatles had an awful lot to do with it. It's just nice to hear someone talk like you just did, because I speak to musicians every day and have done for, you know, 2 decades, and I'm not going to be one of these people who says that there's not still fantastic music, because there is always. Like, I'm doing my albums of the year list tomorrow, and I'm stressed about it in a very knobhead music journalist way, because there's just been so much good music, you know. But increasingly, when I speak to artists, there isn't always that kind of, I don't want to say naivety, but sort of, I haven't spoken to many dreamers for a while. And
well, you're speaking to one now, mate.
Yeah, well, I wonder whether the modern world makes it hard for people to be like that.
I think you might be right. I've always thought that, you know, the fact that being bored, having time on your hands to kill, you know, to stare out a window, you know, and watch the rain trickling and have nothing to do and wish there was something to do. And to look outside, you can't go out because you can't play out because it's raining. You know, there's nothing on the TV because there was only 2 or 3 channels, 3 channels. You know, I mean, I do, and I've said it, you know, to my own children, and I've watched it and been aware of it in all around me, how quick, you know, how so, you know, there's so much going on, you know, in the digital world and the social, you know, media world. You know, everything from a film to hundreds of films. You know, I mean, we'd wait in all week for one movie to come on the telly that was half decent. And it was a big event. You know, my dad would send me down the shop. We'd get a couple of quarters of bonbons and sherbet lemons, and the whole house would watch you. I'm just being is that I think having space and not knowing what to do with yourself is fertile ground to allow a little shoot to appear and go, I wonder what that is. I wonder if I pay attention and nurture that, where that might go. I do worry, or I am concerned that everything is so, there's so much distraction that you can't allow things to drop and to just find their natural gravitas, or whatever the word is, So I don't know, what was the question?
I think I don't quite know now, but I think you've answered it well. I'm going to ask you two things before I wrap up. I'll ask you the less important question first. When is Liam going to have a shave?
Oh, God knows.
How long has it been?
What? It's been a long time, because I remember it must have been locked down then about 4 years ago, or whenever it was. And I had a big, my beard's crap. I had a big kind of scraggly beard, but it was like, it was a goddamn, it was. And I hadn't spoke to Liam for ages, or maybe it was when the band were getting together, or so. Anyway, something did a FaceTime at this, and he answered the phone with what I would call like a badger hanging to his chin. I mean, it was like that.
Yeah.
Now he's kept that. He says he's never going to shave. I actually said to him, just for the novelty, it's very nice to feel the sunlight upon your face, and for the the breeze to blow against you. So I would hope that he does experience a clean shaven chin once again in life.
Yeah.
He seems adamant that he won't.
I saw a new press shot of you remember the band Space?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, from Liverpool.
Yeah, I saw a recent picture of them the other day, and their guitarist has gone full.
He's got the big beard as well.
Yeah, he's gone full ZZ Top, like.
Well, Skin, we did a photo shoot, a great photo shoot with a guy called Paul Husband, and it was a very windy day, and a lot of the shots, Skin's got this kind of beard, well, that's a good shot, that, but we can't use it because it's north by south, so we might have to kind of check out the shipping forecast and make sure there's any what gale force is blowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, but Skins, he's a proud bearded man. He's a mountain man. I mean, he lives in the mountains. He's got, and that's his thing,
Yeah. So my other question, and then we should wrap up, really, is when are we going to hear this this cast record?
Yeah. Well, the sooner the better. For me, it's getting released, I think, about the second week in February.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure when the promo copies and things like that will be going out. Love Is the Call has been released. As I was telling about the detachments, I've just allowed people to get on with it. Got a really good kind of team around it. I've done what I know what I've done, so I don't need to really get too involved. Love Is the Call. I think there's going to be another free release. That was a digital download. I think we're going to throw another song out of the same sort of ilk, psychedelic pop vibe, and then I think we're going to try and go to radio January before the album with, I would say, is the pop song on the album, and there's a song also that they'll go to radio hopefully after the album does okay, which is an amazing song. It's kind of it's got like this great urban kind of observational sort of feeling that runs through it I mean, they're very good, they're very kind of strong singles, but I think if we'd gone first, I think we needed something like Love Is the Call and maybe the next song, just to kind of let you into the kind of psychedelic pop vibe of the album. I think if we'd have come with a very, very, the single, so-called, it or whatever, it might have gone under the radar, but I think Love Is the Call had all the kind of, it was in the sweet spot between Cast and my kind of time, in that little space I was talking between the end of the Lars and the beginning of the Cast. It was kicking, it's bouncing, the bass is there, you've got a feeling, it's got a great song, and it's a cosmic call to arms. So the album's coming out February, and I can't wait for you to hear it, really. I can't wait. I spoke to another guy yesterday, and he was like, when can I get a copy? And I'm like, I'm not sure when they send them out. They'll probably start going out for reviews, I guess, and when it does, you want to get on to Katie.
I'm gonna I'll let him know,
because I'm sick of, I want people to hear it, not because I want to hear it. I think in the past I'd be like, well, I really want people to hear it, and I really hope they like it. Now I don't really care, because I've told you I've got this. I'm liberated and detached, because I know
if you like it, I don't think it matters. I don't think you're looking for the same kind of validation,
No, but it's not. It'd be nice to get out there. I think people who love the band are going to love it. I think people who don't like the band are still going to dig it. And I think, if you've got an open mind, a musical mind that isn't kind of narrow-minded, I think you'll dig it. Even if you don't like the band, I think you're going to go, well, that is a top record for what it's trying to be. It's kicking, it's jumping, it's keen, it's got amazing songs, and I'm happy for it to be the last thing we ever do. And that's what I told the band when we were recording it. You've got to look at this as the last record we're going to make. And
it won't be, though.
No, well, you know what? I feel it's completed the circle. It doesn't mean the band are going to split or do anything, but that is the record. This is the record that Cast needed to make. Maybe should have made in the past, but that's like neither here nor there. That's hypothetical. This is the record that I needed to make, and it's the record that the band needed to make, and I've made it.
I'm going to email Katie and say I've just had a very cosmic and enjoyable chat with John Power, and make sure you send me the record as soon as I can hear it. Thank you so much for your time, John. It's been a real treat.
Yeah. All right, James. Yeah, it's been. Well, I'm just getting used to it. There's the podcast vibe. I mean, I'm glad you've kind of got hold of me, because as a creative person, I get these messages and DMs and things or whatever, and people say, and I kind of, the idea of me kind of putting it in the diary and getting back and going, yeah, I'll do that on Wednesday the 14th or something. Does that work? It's just not. I just go. It's in and it's gone. So now at the moment I've got a press officer, Katie, and she's brilliant. And
really good one as well.
Yeah, and so it's like I'm like, right, now's the time to catch me. If anybody wants to catch me, you got to go via Fear and Fear PR, and you might be able to get hold of me. Yeah,
amazing. Or if not, just do some sort of cosmic wizard shit to the skies, and you'll just appear.
Well, I do that, but that's I just beam in the tunes.
All right, John. Have a lovely day. Thanks for the chat, man.
All right. Yeah. Great. Okay.